Makes me feel like a man.
You want every team to lose any other game?
Sorry. Bailey Zappi just put another dime.
You know what? Wait. Time out.
Are you kidding?
That's what I'm
I'm gonna try to drop a mic. Welcome to the Warner Brothas Podcast. My name is Keenan, joined by my brother Kyle. Before we get to talking about Game 2 of the finals, we were talking about some old school, high school, graded school, great moments that we were a part of. Kyle, how are you doing? It's always great to talk about the memories.
Yeah, we were talking about junior high and high school basketball memories. So that was interesting. That was actually a segment on this podcast early on. At one point, we would ask guests like childhood memories of basketball or high school memories of basketball, AAU, whatever the sorts is. And always funny to take a trip down memory lane when it comes to childhood sports. So yeah, but glad to be here. Glad to talk Game 2. How you doing?
I'm great. And getting right into Game 2, talking.
Whoa.
Oh, there's nothing else we need to talk about. We're here to talk about basketball. Obviously, we just saw us for our Game 2 prediction, and it went pretty close to what we both thought. The game played out as I was talking about, other than Jason Tatum. I thought he was going to be better shooting the ball, but he was we'll get to Jason Tatum, and the game was predicted to Kyle's exact score. So, we kind of know what we're talking about, I guess, a little bit over here, because the game really played out. I thought that Dallas was going to come out. Luka was going to have that kind of Game 5 Timberwolves mentality of trying to punch him in the mouth early, which he did. Kyrie started to come along early. He obviously faded off, as we'll get into going on a little later. Then Boston made their runs. Game was close, and then it really came down to the reason why Kyle and I both felt confident picking the Celtics. The third guy, the fourth guy, the fifth guy, the sixth, they just have so much talent when it comes down. Like Drew Holiday's 26 points and 11 rebounds. Derek White led them in scoring in the fourth quarter. Those are the guys there. Jason Tatum, 6 of 22 in the game. He did very good facilitating, had 12 assists, 9 rebounds, played good defense. So I thought he still played a pretty decent game. He was engaged. The shot's not falling, but he didn't fall out of the game and didn't do much there. He at least was playing hard and still trying to make plays for his team. Jaylen Brown asserting himself when needed for Boston. Obviously, Kristaps Porzingis, we'll see how that calf is. I don't think he'll miss a game or miss any time, but we'll see if he's laboring at all from that. But he was playing well up to the point when he did get injured. Al Horford only had 5 points, but Al Horford doing things. He had 7 rebounds and just making timely defensive plays. But overall, another team victory for Boston, showing why they are the best team in basketball, even though they might not have the best player. We'll dive more into it. Kyle, what are your initial thoughts on Game 2?
I mean, you hit it right on the head, really. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, I have general thoughts, obviously, about the Celtics, about the Mavericks, especially after how Game 2 went compared to Game 1. But just to sum it up, it's feeling and looking like a sweep a little bit. What did you think? I'll give more of how I feel about the series, but let me ask you, how did you think, competitively going into Game 3, how do you feel about this series? How do you feel about what you saw? You said the depth and the Celtics being the best team didn't even matter that Tatum was having a bad shooting night, a terrible shooting night. He couldn't have played worse offensively. On top of that, the three-point shooting was terrible from Boston. You got everything you'd ever want out of Boston as far as a bad game, right? That the recipe for it, the bad shooting from their best player on top of the three-point shooting collectively not being well or shooting well from the team. You got everything you want from the Mavericks, and you got a great first half out of Luka. I'll talk more about him. What more could you have wanted? And you still almost ended up losing by double digits. There was multiple times where it looked like they could have gotten blown off the floor. Then they actually get themselves back into it with 90 seconds left. But then we got a crazy, chaotic sequence that ends in a Derek White chase down block. How do you feel though about it competitively going into game 2? How much better of a team do you think Boston is? Do you think do you think this would have been the case anyway? Like regardless of, I mean, you just can't feel confident if you're a Dallas fan after that 3-point shooting performance and after that Tatum performance.
So, Boston, how do I feel about Boston? I feel like they're just the better team, and I think it's by a decent margin. Like, right now, it looks like Boston just played their bad game. Luka, he didn't have a great second half. He had 9 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists in the second half, but he was only 3 of 8. In the fourth quarter, it was only 3 points, but he did have 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He was only 1 of 6 from the floor. So Luka didn't have a great second half. He played phenomenal in the first half, efficiency-wise as well.
I would say he had a poor second half.
Yeah. He had a very poor fourth quarter. I think his third quarter
you had 4 assists. You had 4 assists for him in the second half or the fourth quarter?
In the fourth quarter. He had 8 assists in the second half.
I only had 2 assists for him in the fourth quarter.
Oh, really? From when I was looking, I saw 4, but maybe anywhere between 2 and 4, regardless. I think he didn't really play. What's up?
Go ahead. I'll get to Luka after. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was going to say, I think he played a phenomenal first half. I think he didn't play a great second half at all. I know for people, when they do that, like when stars do that, you have to look at them for being the guy of like, okay, you let one go. Because you guys did let one go. You let an opportunity go. Jason Tatum shot bad again. Boston, 6 threes through 3 quarters. Drew Holiday was their leading scorer. If you're losing game, not that Drew Holiday can't play. He's a champion. We've seen him make huge plays. He was the second best player on a championship team. I know Chris Middleton was there, but he was the second best player on that Bucks team throughout that series, especially in the finals. But Drew Holiday, if Drew Holiday is your leading scorer, you should not win that game if you're Boston, especially in the final, especially when Tatum's shooting that bad. 6 of 22, he made 1 3, and it was a 3 in the fourth quarter. Like, he wasn't great, but it comes down. PJ Washington played well. Derek Jones Jr. had a better game. Daniel Gafford had a very good second half, being very active on the glass, catching lobs around the basket, finishing around the basket. Came down to Luka and Kyrie not being Luka and Kyrie in the second half to steal that game in Boston and take control of the series. And now you're down 2-0 going back to Dallas. In game 3, you have to play now 4 straight, pretty much. I mean, you have to play a game 7, then another game 7, then a game 5, and then a game 7. Like what? Like, you just have so much. Like, this is obviously game 3 is game 7. If you lose this one, it's maybe over in 4, maybe over in 5, maybe whatever. It's over. Boston's winning the series. You're not beating them 4 times in a row. I don't still think you're beating them 4 out of 5. I think this series is trending more towards 5 than it is going to be trending towards 6 like I had predicted. But how I feel about this Boston team is they have every answer for all questions that Dallas is going to throw at them. The only one is maybe not Luka Doncic, because not many people have an answer for Luka. But again, I mean, they're doing the best you can on him. Like, he's gonna get his, but they're doing the best they can on him. So Boston has every answer for the Dallas test that they're throwing at him. That's how I feel about that.
Only thing I don't really agree with that you said is the Drew Holiday piece of it, where you said, like, if he's your leading scorer, you shouldn't win that game. I don't feel that way, just because, again, just the talent of that top 5 or 6 that Boston has. I think fair. You can really. I think it doesn't matter out of Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Porzingis, any of those guys, if they're your leading scorer, depending on how the defense is going and depending on, the offensive output all around from them. If Porzingis is hampered at all, which I think he will be, he's going to play. He said himself he's going to play, right? But let's say he's just like limping the rest of the series. That's really the only like little inkling of an advantage I can see here going forward for Dallas, because I really do believe, especially if they're going to clamp up Kyrie like this. And I'm sorry, I mean, I've seen a lot about Luka on social media, I don't think he's getting nearly enough smoke. He's averaging. You mentioned he had 3 points last night in the fourth, Keenan. He had 3 points in the fourth of the first game, which a little different. Celtics got up huge. I get it, but he's averaging 3 points. Uh, Look, I was getting flashbacks to 2009, 2010, 2011 LeBron with Luka, where the first three quarters, yeah, his imprints all over the game, and really first half last night for Luka. Luka's third quarter wasn't great. They started running their offense through Gafford to go at Tatum because they felt that was a mismatch. Fine,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I can't really figure Luka out because I don't know if you saw this. They listed him as questionable before the game, like 2 hours before the game. And of course, he was going to play anyway. And he's got some sort of chest injury from the Jaylen Brown charge attempt in the first game. Cool. But again, it just didn't seem like in the first half that it was bothering him that much. Then all of a sudden, and I think Kyrie and Luka played the entire second half. Maybe he got tired. Okay, I'm okay with that if he got tired, whatever. But if he's a top 5 player, if he's a top 3 player, like we say he is, I would like to see a little more in the fourth. So I was disappointed. I was actually Keenan pretty disgusted with his 3-point attempt. They were down what, 5? 7 actually, because that was the last
Mm-hmm.
shot of the game. They're down 7. They drop a play. There's more than a shot clock's worth of time left. I think there was might have been like 30 seconds left. So, they inbounded the ball to Luka, and he pretty immediately tries to force up a one-legged floater 3 when they definitely could have got something else. I don't know. That seemed kind of like a white flag to me from Luka. I'm disappointed. I hope there's more effort from him for all 4 quarters in Game 3, because obviously otherwise they're not going to have a chance. Kyrie, they're just clamping up. I mean, his stats weren't terrible, 7 of 18, I think, but you can see he's either
4
losing the
points
ball,
in the
getting the
fourth quarter, 6 in the second half. He was 2 of 8 from the floor. He hasn't made a 3 all series long.
yeah, and you can just tell he's uncomfortable. He's uncomfortable. Like if you got Jalen on him, Drew, Derek White, when you can just put whoever on him and get max effort because it doesn't really matter who you throw at him. In any case, same with Luka. It doesn't matter if you put Jason, Jalen, Drew, or Derek White on him. If you can cycle like that, you're gonna get more effort. You're gonna get full effort. It's not like Anthony Edwards chasing him around all game. So the fact that they can do that with Kyrie and say, okay, go ahead, Luka, go for 45 if you want. We're just gonna take out Kyrie. I mean, you can pretty much wrap up the series there. If it's going to continue that way and Kyrie can't find his rhythm,
It's a sweep.
and if Dallas's role players aren't going to hit their shots, this is a wrap. It's going to be over in 4. I'll tell you that right now.
If Kyrie doesn't get into his 2016 bag, it's a sweep. I don't care. Like they might get one because Luka. They might get one because Luka or the team gets crazy hot from 3. They're able to do such a thing.
He looked aggressive. I'll give him this. He looked aggressive, especially in that first half. Second half, they definitely gave him problems. But I mean, look, the refs on Wednesday. We're recording this on Monday. On Wednesday, the refs are going to give Dallas some calls in that first half early. They're going to give them every chance. If the Mavericks can hit some threes, we'll see. I mean, Boston's going to make their threes. Maybe there's a chance that, on the road, that their role players don't make threes. But here's the thing. Their role players are Derek White, Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis. You're completely okay with them shooting as many threes as they want. Okay, if you're telling me Hauser and Pritchard ain't going to make threes, so what, right? Unless Kristaps is injured. Again, that's where if Luka is motivated, and I'm very interested to see Luka's mentality because he looked – I was getting very vivid flashbacks of 2010 LeBron, where it's like you look at the stat line. If you didn't watch the game and look at the stat line, you would say, what more could LeBron do? And I saw a lot of that last night where people were like, what more could Luka do if Kyrie's going to play like this? That's fair. Boston is clamping up Kyrie. But Luka can't come to the fourth quarter and put up 3 points in a close game, in a game that's still in contention. He should you got to get at least 8 points in that fourth quarter. He went 1 of 6. It's not going to do it. It's not going to do it. You got to get to the rim. If you're hurt, whatever. But if you can't play, get off the court. You weren't hurt when you had 20, 25 in the first half. So it is what it is. But I'm very interested to see where Luka's head is at. His first home game for the finals in his career. Let's see if you're that killer. Because up until now, you've looked like that killer. Game 1 and 2, I don't know. So
I know. I absolutely agree that Luka needs to play better. I'm interested in his mindset as well. 5 turnovers in the second half. It's not going to get it done. Especially there's that one where he was on the right block, just threw it over his shoulder, like he was playing 500 and just threw it up. Like, what are we doing? Like, that can't happen. Especially you see Kyrie's not rolling. You're in Boston. Every possession matters so much, especially with that roster and that team defensively. And they're not pushing the pace at all. And they're just letting Boston set up their great defense, which is like, okay, mix it up a little bit. I understand, like, Luka likes to work in the half court, but getting out and running is going to definitely help you guys as well offensively. But Kristaps Porzingis' health is the only thing that's going to make this series interesting.
Interesting. And that's the thing. Interesting.
That's it.
And, I do think, like, if Luka, I will give him this. It doesn't seem like he's as healthy as he's ever been, right? He's not 100%. Okay. And maybe if we say Luka's 100%, then maybe things are a little different.
Still losing. They're still losing.
Still losing. But maybe we see more aggressive. But again, sure. I say that, and then I'm wondering, like, that first half, it seemed to be there. You're getting to the rim. You're getting to 15 feet. You're getting to the point where you could at least put pressure on the defense and kick out the shooters, whether your shooters make it, whatever. But step back threes, all of it was there as far as Luka goes.
He's hurt until he's not.
I don't know. I don't really get it with Luka. I just hope to see. I want a competitive series at least. I said yesterday when we gave our predictions that he should at least, or the Mavericks should at least win Game 3, and I'm picking them to win Game 3. That was before watching. That was before watching Game 2. Now I'm not so sure. Now, again, if you can get PJ Washington to get some threes going again, because he hasn't hit his threes. I like the way PJ's playing. Feel like he's being aggressive anyway. But yeah, I don't know. They need some role player threes, but they also just need Kyrie to show up. If Kyrie can be Kyrie on top of what Luka's giving you, whatever percentage he is, that should be enough. But I think Boston's going to continue to lock him up. I think he's going to get help from the refs on Wednesday, but I think they're going to continue to give him problems. So we'll see.
Hey,
I hope it makes it to 6 games. I hope it makes it to 6 games.
I hope it does too, because I'd love to watch a game in Vermont with you guys. I would love to do that, but I don't know if it gets there. I don't know if it gets to me getting to Vermont. Let's be honest there, and that'll be on Monday. The thing about it, Jason Tatum has the ability to go win you one on the road. And the Celtics just had one of their bad shooting games. Could that happen again? Of course. When you shoot 3, some nights you're just gonna be off.
Should happen again.
But
for being honest,
it
should
but
happen.
you have Derek White, professional. You're not worried about the moment being too big. Drew Holiday, we've already seen the moment's not too big. He's won a championship. Jaylen Brown, we're not worried about the moment being too big. Al Horford, veteran, moment's not too big. Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser, I don't think the moment's not too big for them. They come in and shoot. It's just either make or miss. They went 1 of 7 combined, and 1 was a 38-footer, 40-footer from Peyton Pritchard to beat the buzzer. But really, Kristaps Porzingis' health there, and then Jason Tatum needs to find his shot. If the Celtics play as they have been, and Jason Tatum finds his shot, it's gonna take 40-point triple doubles from Luka to win, or it's gonna take like dual 35s from him and Kyrie. Like you're gonna need that level of excellence from those two, and again. The first best player is Luka in the series. Second, Tatum. Third would be Jaylen Brown. Fourth would be Kyrie. They're not playing maybe at that, but those are your hierarchy. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, arguably 9th. The 5th would be Derek White, Drew Holiday, 6, Porzingis, 7, Al Horford, 8.
You've got a real argument for a few of those guys being ahead of Kyrie.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm giving Kyrie the benefit of the doubt right now for being there, because Jason Tatum has not been the second best player in the series. If you were to do it in the series, it'd be a different hierarchy. But we know Jason Tatum is the second best player in the series. I don't want to hear a different thing. And Jaylen Brown's third. Could I argue Drew Holiday's right there with Kyrie? Could I argue Derek White's right there with Kyrie? I think as of today, you could argue Jaylen over Jason as of today.
as if who's been the best player in this series.
Who's been the best player? Sure. Who is the best player? I would say two different. Like for the series, Jalen.
But I could counter. Here's where you could counter though: is say, hey, Jalen outplayed him in the 22 finals. This is a reoccurring theme in that case.
In the 22 finals, yeah, but I mean, I guess I just give credit to the 3 All NBA first teams. I give credit to what Jason Tatum has put together over the. I mean, he didn't win Eastern Conference MVP, averaging 30, 10, and 5, like that kind of like he's just like he's that good to where 30, 10, and 5 from him can be overshadowed by somebody else. It doesn't typically happen unless you have two people that are really that good. So that's kudos to Jaylen Brown because obviously you need someone to be that.
Yeah, I think it's because Jason's, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong about this, but I think Tatum had a couple not as good shooting games. Maybe game 1 and game 2.
The first two games weren't great for him. The last two,
scoring totals were
game
good.
3.
Right, scoring totals were good. So it is what it is. I mean, I do think the gap's closing between Jason and Jalen. I think if you're going to choose who's a franchise player between the two, sure, Jason. We've seen it. But, I mean, Jalen's definitely emerging. This is the most mature version of Jaylen Brown we've seen. And, he's not settling for threes, which he didn't necessarily always settle for threes. He's not necessarily a three-happy guy, but he's, certainly playing, 4 feet. He's trying to get to the rim as much as he can. And his in-between game's coming along better than before. So, I'm really impressed with how Jalen's playing and how he's come along really since March. I mean, he's been I'm not going to put a number on it, but he's looked like an upper echelon player since March, really. Like a step I didn't think.
Like a top 15 player since March. You can put a number on it.
Sure.
About top 15.
Sure. Well, I mean, I wasn't going to put a number on it. There's a ton of talent, but this is the best version of Jalen I've seen.
I'll put a number on it. He's looked like a top 15 player. He's looked like an All NBA performer since March. Or really since.
I mean, he was all NBA last year. I would never say he's not All NBA, but I mean, he had a rough postseason last year, but since March he's looked outstanding. He really has. But Tatum and his shooting struggles, look, it's not good. I don't see it improving by Wednesday. Actually, the only reason I do think it could improve a little bit is because the game is Wednesday and not Tuesday, right? That's the only reason I could see it really improving for him. Otherwise, being on the road and allowing Dallas to be more physical, I could see, because he is not in rhythm at all. And he's also tentative. He's not even trying to pull up. He had a couple times where he had an open three, and you could see him just not being confident in his shot. So that's not good. I mean, you're. I don't want to say you're lucky if you're Boston, because that's not the case. I've seen people talk about how you're fortunate, exactly, because I've seen people talk about, oh, he's getting carried by Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday. I hate when people say that. No, they just got a good enough team to where they can do that. And to you made a good point, Keenan. To Tatum's credit, he's playmaking well. He's playing great defense, and he's rebounding the hell out of the ball. He always rebounds well. So he's doing everything else well. He's being a good team player, but you don't want your best player that questionable in his shot. He's
engaged. He is engaged in the game. He is not taking himself out of the game. He's just super tentative with his shot. You could argue his best attribute. I mean, his best attribute would be the way he scores the basketball. So that's where he doesn't look himself fully because of the way he's tentative with his shot, because he's not feeling confident in it, and it just doesn't. And it hasn't sat right. This whole playoff series, he's had high points for sure, but this whole playoff run, it's just been his shot just hasn't been flowing. There's just been something that's been off or missing. He has his games here and there, of course, because you're always going to have those, but he just has not been in full rhythm these playoffs. And Boston might win the championship, or probably should win the championship, especially at this point, with Jason Tatum not in rhythm. That just lets you know how good the roster is. I have one question for you.
Sure.
I know you like to listen to the telecast, pretty much everybody who watches, of course. Mike Breen had said that Derek White and Drew Holiday are one of the best backcourts defensively ever. What are your thoughts on that? I was interested to hear what you think.
I mean, they both made second team all defense.
And Drew Holiday's perennial all defense. He could have a defensive player of the year, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, either one of those guys. I mean, they both have a case for first team. Honestly, I mean,
yeah.
first team was like all bigs. I don't even know if a wing made first team all defense.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it's an accurate statement. They are definitely one of the best defensive backcourts of all time. I don't think we need to put a label on all these things. It's kind of funny how the most talented backcourt of all time, that's all quieted down now that Kyrie can't even reach 20 points. So yeah, I mean, hopefully Derek White and Drew Holiday. That's the cool thing about this Boston team, Keenan, that I'm excited for. I'm already kind of looking forward to next year. I'm excited to see how this team grows. Assuming Boston wins the championship, I'm looking forward to seeing how champion Jason Tatum and champion Jaylen Brown and champion Joe Mazzulla, what that looks like going forward. Because you're going to have Kristaps Porzingis, you're going to have Derek White, you're going to have Drew Holiday for sure. You assume you're going to have them guys for the next 2 years, maybe. I don't know what the contracts look like, but if you got that five and you can build around that, I'm interested to see what that looks like.
And
this
one
team,
thing I want to quickly add, before you go on that, with next year, Jason Tatum playing on Team USA, see how that translates for him. I was talking about with Anthony Edwards, how that leap can kind of take you there. I know it's not too much of a break for Tatum, but we'll see how, obviously being around such great talent for a long period of time, not really getting out of a basketball rhythm, especially him still being very young. We'll see how that translates into next year too. Maybe he could have one of his best years of his career. Go on.
He should. I mean, look, there's a foundation here because I think what's going to end up happening, I think we're going to continue to see this trend in the West where you're not going to see, repeat conference finalists or NBA finalists. You're right. Like Denver didn't make it back this year, and I think Denver was more than good enough to make it back, right? But
yeah,
you have legitimately every year 10 or 11 NBA playoff teams in the West. There's going to be teams like the Kings this year. They deserve to be there. They didn't make it, especially with the play-in tournament. You're going to have legitimately 10, 11 teams that could be anywhere from a 3 to 8 seed or a 3 to 10 seed in this case. It'll all depend on injuries. So, you play this playoffs any sort of amount, Boston's getting out of the East most of the time. And I think who comes out of the West, if you did a simulator, you would get the T-Wolves sometimes, you get the Mavs sometimes, you might get the Clippers with a healthy Kawhi sometimes. You'd get the Nuggets
Lakers,
probably the most.
if they get the right draw.
Maybe. I don't think the Lakers could, if they get the right draw. That's a thing. If they would have got OKC first round, maybe. But I don't think they can defend them.
If they would have gotten OKC, then Dallas, and then maybe Phoenix, if they got hot, like they would have to get the right matchups to get there. I think that the Timberwolves and the Nuggets were two teams that would have probably given them a lot of problems just because they can match your size. Plus, they have the wing depth. I think those two teams would have given them the most problems. But if they would have seen a more finesse team like the Suns or the Timberwolves or even this Mavs team, they could have played with them. I think it could have made it interesting in those series. So really all matchup dependent as it is every single year.
Right. And I just think that's going to be the case with the West. It's hard to say the rest of this decade, but I mean, you look at a team like the Grizzlies with the draft pick they got with John Morant coming back next year and Bane and Marcus Smart. They could easily be a contender next year with Jaren Jackson Jr. And if you upgrade your center position or you just make a trade, they could very well be in the mix next year.
We know how we feel about Wemby. We know how this
yeah,
podcast feels about
Wemby.
Wemby.
Exactly 3 years from now, you're going to have to deal with Wemby in the
Wemby.
playoffs. You have to deal with Wemby in the playoffs in 2 or 3 years. So I think the Celtics team,
Colin, about like 300 days, we're gonna have to deal with Wemby in the playoffs. I'm gonna be quite
maybe,
honest with you.
Maybe
If they make a couple moves, we'll see how the offseason goes. But
he's definitely good enough. I'll say this: assuming they're just like better than last year, right? Just like already improved. I would think, like just with his talent, they could be a play-in team, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe they are in that mix next year.
They could give a team a problem in the first round. They could give any team a problem in the first round. Wemby he's that good already. He's that good already. They could give someone a problem in the first round.
Whereas
let them get a couple pieces this offseason.
Exactly. Whereas in the Eastern Conference, it would it'd be contingent on
health.
Embiid's health. It'd be contingent on Embiid's health. contingent on Dame and Giannis's health. I think the Knicks are the only team for sure we can say are going to be going for it next year, and they will be improved. Like somewhere or another, that team is going
Depends
to
on
be
their health
improved.
too. Well, let's hope they
And
stay
their health,
healthy because
right? They all depend on
that's
Tibbs.
what lost
They-
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
and then
lost their whole.
Miami. Can they be healthy? Like,
Yeah,
it's health in the East because I mean you could say the same thing in the West, but even so, like if one team falls off, that's just going to propel another team up. With the East, it's like there's 4 teams all vying for that number 2, and Philly, Miami, New York, Milwaukee, not in that order. And then I'm going to add Indiana. They did make the conference finals this year, regardless of how you feel about it. Indiana does deserve to be there. And then we'll see what Cleveland does. So, like, there's a lot of very good teams. Orlando could be interesting next year. So, like, there's a lot of teams that are, like, very good. But there's a clear separator between them and Boston right now. In the West, there's like it feels like there's 5 teams on one line, 5 teams on another line, and all matchup dependent on who's getting past where. It's like it's just there's so much like real close. Like, oh, the Nuggets could get there if this happened. The Timberwolves, as we were just saying, the Mavericks clearly. Obviously, what if the Suns happen this, the Lakers happen this, oh, the Warriors make a move here, the Grizzlies get better. There's so many different scenarios where like a West team, I could talk them into being one of the last 4. I didn't even mention the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Kings. Like I could put Pelicans. I could put them in the last 4. I could put them in the conference finals, the semifinals. Like in the East, it really just is like Boston and who can be healthy.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm very much looking forward to this offseason. I think we're going to get a very entertaining NBA offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't been this excited for the upcoming season already. You know what I mean? It's been a little while since I've like
we're mid to finals and we're talking about
we're mid finals,
year.
and I can just already see the storylines. Like there's a lot to look forward to for next season already, and I think we've got quality players in the league, whether they're free agents or whether they're trade candidates that could swing a few things to where we say, okay, maybe Boston doesn't have that easy of a road or this or that. So I'm very interested to see how free agency goes. I'm very interested to see who gets traded this offseason. Very interested to see how the Olympics go. I'm very interested to see what the LeBron game looks like, because I don't think that's going to be a normal offseason for him. The Lakers in general, that's more of just theater anyway, because I don't think, unless the Lakers get someone like Trae Young, but it would take way more than Trae Young. But unless they get a third guy and some 3-and-D guys on top of it, I don't really see the Lakers being a contender. I don't. I think all the guys.
I don't think Trae Young's gonna go there. Trae Young to the Spurs makes just way too much sense, and they have the draft capital to move some stuff. I
don't think they're gonna do that though. I really don't think. I want San Antonio to do that. I think that's a match made in heaven. I just don't think they're gonna do it. It doesn't seem like they're gonna do it. I hope they do.
It makes too much. Like at least on paper, it just makes way too much sense. You get the point guard to go along with Wemby. Okay, what's Trae Young's weakest point of his game? Defense. Who can make up for that better than anybody in the league right now? The 7'4" alien. Go put him there. Oh, we're going to blow by him. You're going to see this 8-foot wingspan just coming out of nowhere, looking like the Michael Jordan Space Jam arm just coming out of nowhere. Like, this would be the perfect match for him. You got a guy who can both team the pick and pop game, the pick and roll game. Trae Young's a phenomenal passer, one of the best in the league. I think it works perfect. But San Antonio does what San Antonio does. They'll figure it out. But I think it works. And you have draft capital. They have the 4th pick this year, I think. So
4th and the 8th.
4th and the 8th. I mean, yeah, that's
in what people are calling the worst draft ever. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I mean, I would say Alex Sarr looks pretty good. And you got obviously Donovan Clingan. He's another big, but obviously it all depends on what Atlanta wants to go with. So it's tough, but we'll see. They're definitely on these drafts. It's kind of like, from what I've heard too, it's the star power at the top's not great, but there's a decent amount of quality like role players you can find, which it's good to fill out some rosters. Obviously, you get the Jalen Williams type of players that you can find maybe some gems and develop them and see. But we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, look, unfortunately, because of how these first two games have gone, and like we both said, it's trending towards 5, and I think that's honestly being nice. Like I'm praying that the Mavs can win in game 3 and give us
I
some
would love
semblance.
to be wrong about this. Like I would personally love to be wrong in what I'm saying. And I hope I am because I want 6. I want 7. That's when we get the greatest of all these players.
I would be
See 5.
extremely I'd be extremely happy with 6. I would
Yes,
be
same.
I would be at this point happy with 5, and I was not prepared to come and say that today. I thought honestly, like Keenan, even if Luka puts up a different 3 than that fucking runner he put up, that was I was pissed off as an NBA viewer. Like like okay, the game's not in your probability that you're gonna win, but you can at least make a 3 and make it interesting. Or hey, Luka, you're one of the best passers. Maybe take 2 dribbles into the paint and see if you can create something for
Mm-hmm.
someone else. Uh, we actually saw a few plays before that. His only field goal of the quarter was an and one off an attack from Al Horford, and he put up a contested one-legged 3 with 30 seconds left in the game. I don't understand that. I don't want to make too much of a big deal about it and gripe on it, but again, that's just his level of intensity and what his offensive output is going to be the main thing I focus on
We
in game
can't
3 for sure.
you can't I was say you can't call him Luka Jordan and not hold him to high standards.
I
That's
just
just
it looked very
and I'm not
2010
I'm just
LeBron
saying
to
like
me. Looked very
I mean
2010 LeBron. Looked very the online discussion about man, Luka needs more help. What more can he do? And I'm like, well, he could have scored more than 3 points
Where
in the fourth.
was where was this a week ago? We knew these were the rosters. There's nothing new. We knew Daniel Gafford's playing ability. I understand Kyrie
And
hasn't
and
played
and not
well.
only that, I think the role guys didn't make shots last night, but PJ gave you points. Gafford played okay. I mean, Kyrie's the swing guy. We know that. You need Kyrie to perform well for them to even have a chance. But if
Mhm.
in the event
Kyrie's
that
been
he's
the one.
not, in the event that he's not, look, Luka is to me already on the short list of pure scorers. Already on the short list. He can get it any way you present it to him, mid range 3. We see his step back 3. That's his patented shot, and he can get to the rim. You should be able to say, okay, all right. He ended with 29, right?
32.
Or he ended with 32. Okay, he did get to 32. He had probably what 24 at the half. I don't remember,
He had
but
20. He had 9 points in the second half, and it was had 3 in the fourth quarter. He wasn't
exactly. So I mean, he could have done a little more. Could have done a little more.
absolutely, and that's fine. He's if we want to call him possibly, we would have been calling him the best player in the world if he wins this series. The conversation is he better than Jokic is there. That's the conversation. We can't call you the best player in the world and not have these questions about you. It's not even just because like that's the media thing. That's just the way it is. If you're the best player, we hold you to the best standard. The best standards have been set starting from George Mikan all the way up to now. Like it's been set. I'm just saying it's been set forever. We've seen it from Bill, Wilt, Kareem, Mike, Magic, Isaiah. I obviously could go
I
on
just
and
I
on with
just
all
think the
these greats.
I just think the excuses. I think he's gonna get a lot of excuses made for him. The same way, it's not gonna sound correct, but this is true. LeBron had these same excuses made for him his first go around in Cleveland, where only a few guys. Of course, Skip Bayless being one of them, but only a few guys were really pointing out, like, all right, he is performing, he is getting his numbers, but could he do a little more offensively? Like it just seemed like he would kind of run away from the ball sometimes in the fourth. Luka didn't seem the most excited. As someone who looked at Rudy Gobert as food on the last possession of the game, he didn't seem too excited to go against Jason Tatum or Jalen or any of those guys in the third and fourth quarters of each of these games. So that's all. That's all. I don't want to harp on the point too much, but my original point I was getting at, this looking like a sweep the way it is, it's making me look forward to summer sports already. So, you know, got me. I'm gonna have to look more towards the WNBA. Then, of course, we got the Olympics. Then we got NFL training camp around that time too. And then before we know it, it'll be preseason. So maybe that's why I'm looking ahead to the next season's NBA because I just think the storyline's going to be insane for the NBA. I think we're a great season ahead of us than the NFL. I mean, don't even get me started. Then the UFC, we're set up for a great summer as well. So I can't wait to see what the summer sport. I think we got an all-time great summer sports projection. I won't say it's going to happen, but I'll say it's projected to be a special, next 6 to 8 months in sports. There's no reason why it can't be.
We do, because we don't typically. I mean, the Olympics already makes it potential for the all-time great sports summer, because obviously this isn't the 70s, this isn't the 80s, this isn't the 90s, this isn't the early 2000s. Baseball doesn't really matter like that, unfortunately. I'm sorry, guys, it just doesn't. So, and even like your hockey fan, hockey's done. Like, it's like all of it's done. So really that, but then this is the first year that like the media and everyone's picked up on how the WNBA. So like Caitlin
I'm looking
Clark
forward to Ohtani this summer. I'll say that. I'm looking forward to
No, I was gonna say there are moments in baseball like home run derby. If you have a really good home run derby, if maybe as you said Ohtani or Mookie gets on, Freddie Freeman, whoever that gets on these like a big run of like 11 straight games where they have like a home run or something. Like there's big baseball moments that can happen, or like some pitcher goes on like a 30-inning streak of like barely allowing anything. Like there are things that can happen.
I mean
in
specifically
baseball.
Ohtani. I mean specifically Ohtani because he's
okay.
he's
That's
really,
fair. That's fair.
He's really
That's
the only him and probably Judge and then Trout who's not healthy. Like Trout's going to be out for a long time. I would say, I mean, from my little knowledge of the MLB now, I would say the only guys who can really capture national attention, and again, really probably only Ohtani and maybe Judge, would be Ohtani, Judge, Trout, and Bryce Harper. But I don't think
I would
Bryce
say,
Harper,
and I would add Mookie into that too. I think Mookie.
and
bets
Mookie's talented,
Mookie.
but I don't think as far as just true casual national fans, I think it would only be Ohtani, and he's not pitching this year, so he would have to
Ohtani and
go on,
Judge. I give Judge it just because of
And
that
Judge.
that home run when he was on that was getting national attention from just regular people. So I'd give Aaron Judge.
You're
that
right.
as well.
You're right. It was, but even still, it didn't move me to go watch Yankee games.
It wouldn't have been the same if it was Ohtani. If it was Ohtani, everyone would have been voting. But because she's just so different.
I'm saying with Judge being in New York, I felt like
saying.
it would be a little more. I don't know, a little more. And it was the AL home run record, and they tried to act like who actually had the AL home run record? Did they try to steroids that shit?
Yeah,
I think they tried to act like that was the true home run record, and it damn sure wasn't. They tried to say AL.
I think it was 60. I think it was 66
It was 60
home runs though. I know Judge got to 62, but I want to say 66 was
I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Because it was all about Roger Maris, but they were calling it the AL home run record, which I just never heard of that term used. And I was alive for like all the real home run races with like Bonds and Sosa, McGuire and them. So that I just never heard the division specific or conference specific home run record, but it was cool.
We're going to have a baseball conversation at some point.
Also, I just want to point out Caitlin Clark. Which, by the way, two things here. You keep looking over to your left. Is there like a bird where you're recording or some shit?
No. So like where the screen is, you kind of are there. So I'm like looking at you and then kind of like looking there. So like I'm looking there.
Look like someone's
there. So
look like someone's holding you hostage. It's got like a gun to your head telling you what to say. But shit, what was I say? Oh, Caitlin Clark tonight. She had one of the worst air balls I've ever seen anybody have. I don't know if you saw the clip. She got she got to the paint pretty uncontested, and I'd say from 8 feet, tried to shoot like just a one arm floater, like little push shot, and just got all there. Like didn't even get net. It was bad. It was very bad.
I thought they got beat by Connecticut, but Connecticut's like the best offensive team in the league, and they've got her number. Dejanay Carrington's a monster.
I say they got my girl Dejanay. I'm still mad we didn't do the fantasy. We got to do the fantasy basketball next year because that would help my learning of the WNBA game. Yeah. That's what I kind of wanted to use it for. We missed the opportunity. It's okay, but yeah, I already got some draft picks I would have next year, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what were you saying? You said two things about Caitlin. There was that air ball, and was there?
No, that was it. I was just commenting on where you were looking, and then Caitlin Clark's floater. That did not float at all. That shit was all there.
Yeah. All right. I'm good. Do you have anything else on your mind that you wanted to discuss? But I'm a
No,
good
no.
bud.
We'll reconvene after game 3. Let's give our predictions though. I think we should give our predictions for game 3.
Mavs 110 to 104. Or 110 100 actually.
How confident are you in that pick?
Not. It's a hope. Not at all. Not at all. Sorry.
Let me give
Mavs.
all right. Let me give we're not gonna both go Mavs because it would be I can't pick the Mavs. We can't both go Mavs. So I'm gonna go Celtics. I'm gonna say 112-101 Celtics. 11-point victory. I hope I'm wrong.
Listen, like here's the thing.
Actually, time out.
What? Go on.
I'm gonna flip. I am gonna flip. I'm gonna flip to the Mavs. But I have it going differently. I think for them to win it, it's gotta be an ugly game. And they've got to hit their threes.
Fair.
So I'm gonna say something like 95-89 Mavericks. I'm not confident in that at all. See, I'm more confident in my original Celtics pick.
Listen, I'm not.
But I already flipped.
I'm not super confident in the fact that the Mavericks are gonna win. I'm not super confident in it, but I see it going 5. I do think it's 5, but I also think if they win, I think if Boston wins Game 3, I just think it's over. It's
over. If Boston wins, I can see them sitting Luka in Game 4. I'm gonna stick Mavs though. I'm gonna stick Mavs, and I'll say this big game from Kyrie. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we see a slight, huh?
They need it.
They need it. Yeah, exactly. They absolutely need it. So I think big game out of Kyrie. Luka does what Luka does. You know what I mean? I think we see more effort out of him in the 4th. Maybe another triple-double. I think we get Tatum improvement, but not necessarily a game you're in love with, right? I think he shoots better, but it's still something like 22 to 24 points. Maybe the rebounds and assists are there. So, yeah, because I think the Celtics are due for a game where maybe Jalen has 8 points or maybe Derek White's not shooting well or, again, maybe Porzingis' injury has an effect on what they do offensively. But, again, you can just throw Horford in there. But, the fact I do wish Keenan, and this happens every finals, but they changed the schedule up a lot. And in this case, it benefits Boston a ton. If this was like a Sunday, Tuesday, like mandatory Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, right? Because they do try to hit those 3, but this week we're getting Wednesday, Friday, right? So in this case, Keenan, I do think because of that only one day off, I do think that could maybe somehow benefit Dallas if they do win on Wednesday. But having 2 days off benefits people like Porzingis and Horford for this game 3. Same with game 1 to game 2. So I don't know. I'm really palms up with this. I hope the Mavs win. We're both rooting for the Mavs. We're both picking the Mavs really just off of rooting instead of what we think is going to happen. I even flipped as as you'll see.
What's your score again?
95-89. 95-89 Mavericks over the Celtics of Boston.
And I'm going 110 to 100 Mavericks. 110 to 100 Mavericks.
Cool.
All right.
This was the Warner Brothas Podcast. Catch us on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube at the Warner Brothas Podcast. This was Kyle, as well as Keenan, and we will be back before Game 4. Enjoy.
Like a man.